talk about the change and the dynamics of, how it's adapted and the direction that we can go as mental performance coaches and, fulfilling what needs to be done for athletes and coaches across, the United States and the world.
It's not for everybody. Like at the high school level, um, let's take a track team of 50 kids. Maybe 20 of those 50 kids are really serious about being the best they can be in track. 30 kids are out for the social aspect, which is great, by the way. So you have the total package to impact and influence kids, no doubt about it, because you are super into and believe in, not only for yourself, but for those around you.
Coach Guz, what's up, man?
How you doing, Grant? Great to see you, my friend.
You too, always. So I'm gonna give a quick kind of introduction of how we met, how we've been working together, and we'll dive into a lot of good stuff. We'll talk about culture, leadership. We'll talk about the state of high school athletes and athletics and sports and everything. But I want to go back to when I decided to get mental performance mastery certified with Brian Kane, and I think I had reached out to Drake about um, I think I had asked him something like, "Hey, hey Drake, do when you start with a client, do you go over the 10 pillars in the first session, or do you kind of just stagger it out?" And Drake's like, "Hey, let's get on a call." And I said, "Yeah, thanks for reaching out, man." He said, "Yeah, hey, do you have like a coach?" I said, "No, I do not." And he said, "And you work in the high school, right?" I said, "Yes, I do." He said, "I know a guy that you need to talk to." And he said, "Coach Kevin Guzzo, he's AD in Michigan. He's awesome." He said, and he's and you know how Drake, and he's just got an opening right now, and it fills up fast. I said, "Well, yeah, of course." So I said, "Well, yeah, let's do it." So I have never had a coach personally. I've never had my own. Here I am coaching, right? I've never had my own coach. I've never talking to anybody besides my wife and my mom. Usually it's just venting, but I didn't know what to expect when you became my mental performance coach. So I get on and I'm thinking you're just going to take me through, the 10 pillars and go through piece by piece. And every time we hop on, you're like, "What's up?" I'm like, this, and this. "Oh, cool. What else?" I'm like, this, and this. "Oh, okay, yeah." And then before you know it, I ask you a question, and it's like you dive into it. You answer everything I could possibly think of. I'm jotting down notes. I'm writing everything, and every time we get off the phone, I'm like, I'm ready to run through a brick wall. I'm just thinking I'm Superman, and it's not like you're pumping me up. It's just, it's just a process, and it's just consistency, and it's not mental performance coaching is not simple, or sorry, it's not easy implementing it, but it's definitely simple to grasp, if that makes sense. So can't thank you enough. We've been working together now for 8 months, and I refer to you all the time. People are asking me about, what do you do? How do you do that? And I was like, well, just before you say anything about does it work, does it not, I have my own coach. So his name is Coach Kevin. So please don't think that I'm just in this to do this. So let's just dive into your background as far as, where you're at, how you got into coaching, what led from coaching to athletic director, and then ultimately mental performance mixed in with all that.
Well, a couple of things first off. Thanks for having me. It's truly my pleasure to sit down with you and talk because I love talking to you. Your energy is contagious, which makes me fired up to get on calls with you.
See, here we go. He's already pumped me up. I'm getting fired up again. Okay.
I'm very fortunate. I'm blessed to work with a lot of athletes and teams and coaches, and you're one of my favorites because I feel like I get to get energized just as much as hopefully you get energized for me. So I'm always fired up when I get off a call, and I just say, when's Grant going to schedule another call with me so we can energize each other? And then when you mentioned mom and your wife, and I'm sort of in that same sentence, you just made my day. Like I'm good to go. What else today? Like I'm in the echelon in your world.
You
So
are. You should be getting a Christmas card next year.
I'll be waiting. I'll be waiting for it. I'll give you my story here. I got into public education, teaching and coaching 30 years ago, as a matter of fact. All I wanted to be was a math teacher when I grew up, math teacher and a coach. quickly got into coaching 3 sports a year at my high school, a public high school in Southwest Michigan, St. Joseph High School, just a great place, great community. And taught and coached for 9 years, athletic director job came around, never thought about it, there's never my aspiration to be the AD, but people are asking me like, hey, this could be your next step. You've coached 3 sports, you've coached males, females, maybe it's something you should think about. And granted, it really came down to, for me, was how can I impact more kids?
Yeah.
In the classroom for 5 hours a day and coaching might be able to impact 150 kids while being an athletic director. And honestly, I don't like to call the position athletic director. I like to call it athletic leader. Director
Hmm.
means you tell people what to do. Athletic leader means you inspire people to
I
do
like
things.
that. Yeah.
So I like to change that name. Nobody seems to be listening in the country, but I like to call it athletic leader. Go figure. In any case, I was fortunate enough to get hired at my high school as athletic leader. I just finished my 21st year. I am in the finishing here in a few short weeks, my 21st year as athletic leader at St. Joseph High School.
Hmm.
Along that way, in about 2016, I kept thinking, how do we get better? Right. As you do as a coach, as you do as a teacher, as you will do as a mental performance coach, how do you get better? Like, how can we keep pushing the rock to get our student athletes and coaches better? And I felt we were doing a pretty good job with the physical part of it, the X's and O's, the strategies. We weren't really doing a great job with the mental part. And to be completely frank, I didn't know a lot about the mental part.
Yeah.
I had a baseball coach who was dabbling a little bit, kept throwing this name out, Brian Kane, Brian Kane, Brian Kane. And I'm going, like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
It just so happened Brian was doing a high school athletic director immersion event in downtown Chicago
Hmm.
for athletic directors from the Midwest. And that's about an hour and a half from my house. So I signed up for it, was able to attend day and a half seminar, changed my life professionally and personally.
Hmm.
Just made me really think outside the box. Got out of my comfort zone to becoming the best that I could be so I could be the best for those that I serve. And then kind of implemented that in my own life, running around my house yelling, dominate the day. Now, my wife and kids didn't really enjoy that at the time, but they've learned to appreciate it maybe a little bit. But to bring that back to our coaches and student athletes. And I was so impressed with Brian. I tell people, some people say, well, I started drinking the Kool-Aid. I didn't start drinking the Kool-Aid. I started shotgunning the Kool-Aid. Like I was all out, all in, 100%.
Yep.
This
Yep.
guy just gets
Yep.
more fired up than anybody. So uh,
Yes.
I wanted to bring it back to our student athletes and coaches. In the following summer, after writing some grants, we were able to bring them in to work with our coaches and athletes. Long story short, it came over so well. My superintendent brought it back for the 2 following years to work with every employee in St. Joseph Public Schools to do our kickoff day, from
Wow.
bus drivers all the way up to the superintendent and everybody in between. So I was able to develop a pretty good relationship with Brian. And when he released his mental performance coaching mastery program,
Mhm.
I was one of the first ones, I think, within the first couple of months to sign up and get my certification. And I just want to learn more, right? Just
Yeah.
like you, growth mindset. How do we get better? We got to keep learning. We got to keep reading. We got to keep asking. And, I probably sent hundreds of texts to Brian Kane and never heard back. No offense if Brian ever listens to this, but he's a busy guy and I don't expect him to text. But I'm the type of guy, like, I'll ask until you
Yeah.
say no. I'm going to keep asking. But Brian's been so good to me. Been to a couple immersion events with him and other places throughout the country, working with some teams. And then he brought me on as a mental performance coach a couple years ago. And but just been fortunate to work with teams and clients from all over the country. And then I do some stuff on my own. And I get great people like yourself, Grant, to mentor in a way that this is a field where people need help.
Yeah.
It's that simple, right? Everybody focuses on the physical part of the game, and they can only reach so much of their potential and they focus on the physical part. So people like yourself and myself, what are we trying to do? Help kids, help student athletes, help teams reach their potential, not only through the physical part, but the mental part as well. And I like to say this, and I say this all the time: if you do what everybody else does, you get what everybody else gets.
Yeah.
With mental performance, you're doing things differently.
You are.
So
You're setting
that's what I
yourself
do.
apart. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You want to do things differently to gain that competitive advantage, to help people become their best.
Hmm.
You do that by giving them strategies and habits and routines and processes that they can implement on a consistent basis to show up on a daily basis and be their best when it matters most.
Hmm. Yeah. And like you said, you have the ability to do that with the way that you've taken this and ran with it, full speed ahead, implementing it into your school, implementing it into your programs, and leading by example, setting the tone as, you've gotten certified, you've become a mental performance mastery coach, you do it all. And that's such a big part, because like you said, you can't ask you're the quarterback of the football team to be energetic and lead everybody if you don't go out there and you're setting the tone too. Like, it should almost be a competition between you and your guy. So yeah, it's been really good, man, and it's changed my life for the better, because my path went from, okay, I am really anxious and burnout. So where do I start? Okay, it was like sleep. All right, so next from sleep is back into shape. Okay, now I'm back into shape. Okay, well, what's next? Okay, routine. Well, where do I look up somebody who knows something about routines and discipline and breathing and visualizations? And that's how I came upon it. So once I started doing it myself, I was like, well, I'm going to get certified, and that way I can teach my players how to do it. And it's just opened up this whole nother world, man. So it's crazy how things happen like that. So specifically, you go around the country talking about culture, leadership. Dive in a little bit about, what, in your opinion, makes a great culture, makes a great leader, and how do we bottle that up and basically teach it?
Yeah. Well, as I was telling you before we went live, I mean, I just arrived in Ocean City, Maryland to
Mhm.
teach a culture class tomorrow at the state AD conference. And very fortunate to be able to do that and spread some of the things that have worked at our school. And I'm blessed to work with John Woods, the Libertyville, Illinois athletic director on this course that we're teaching. But I'll say a couple of things. You mentioned leadership. To me, you can't lead others unless you lead yourself first.
Mhm.
When you mentioned you started focusing on sleep and better eating and exercise and AM routines, that's making you a better leader because you're starting to lead yourself first. And that's where leadership starts. Nobody's going to follow, nobody's going to listen if you're not leading yourself first. So what are you doing on a daily basis to become the best version of yourself?
Mhm.
And people see that. Right? People see you working on yourself, and that motivates and inspires other people because it can't be just talking the talk. You got to walk the walk as well. So, it's got to happen within you if it's going to happen through you, is what we like to say. So,
Yeah.
to me, the big piece of leadership is if you're going to talk about leadership, you can't be a hypocrite.
Yeah.
I say, hey, boys, hey, girls, you got to do this, this, and this. And then, they see you with a Big Mac and a Coca-Cola for lunch. Like it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So you got to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. And then culture to me, here's the biggest piece on culture. It's all about being intentional. Nothing happens by accident.
Mhm.
Everything happens with intention. So the best leaders, the best coaches, the best teachers are the most intentional ones. They're intentional with everything they do. So if you want to have a better culture, I have a quote in my office. It's framed, it's on a poster, it's school colors. Either create the culture that you want or deal with the one that you have.
Wow.
It's pretty simple. When
Powerful.
people come to me and say, our culture's bad, or I'm a new coach, I'm walking into this bad toxic culture, I go, who cares? That's in the past. Why are you worrying about what the culture was? You should be worrying about what the culture will be under your leadership. You have an opportunity to completely change the culture, and that's all within your control if you go about it the right way. It's not going to happen by accident. It's not going to magically get better, but if you're intentional about it, building better relationships, creating standards, holding people accountable to those standards, defining behaviors based on those standards, that's what's going to change the culture. At my school, we've worked on culture to 2005, probably since 2018, when we implemented what we call an MVP process, created a mission, vision, core principles. I still say I have to work on it every single day with every kid, every coach, every parent. It's a livable, breathable process. You got to work on it constantly. It's not words on a piece of paper. It's not at some poster in the hallway of your school. It's something you have to work on every single day if you want your culture to improve.
Yeah. Anything, I found that anything that I can teach with mental performance, I always relate it. If I'm talking to a guy, which is usually what I'm doing as a football coach, I relate it to bench press. Okay. Like I always tell them, you want to get a better bench press, right? Everybody wants a new max. Well, are you just going to bench press every day? No. Are you going to bench press once a month? No. You're going to bench press 2, 3 times a week, but then you're also going to work on your shoulders. You're going to go to sleep. You're going to eat protein. You're going to make sure you're focusing on your range of motion. You're going to make sure you're stretching. So,
Mhm.
same thing for anything within that, the whole sculpt of the 10 pillars, everything we talk about, culture, leadership. If you're going to be good at this, you've got to fill in the little gaps all around it. And, it's when they get that, they say, okay, it's kind of clicking. And it's just a matter of staying consistent after that. And part of coaching, I think the biggest challenge, we can draw up anything we want, the X's and O's, and draw it in the dirt and feel good. But I found coaching that we win more games that we're not supposed to when we run the simplest plays, when we do the simplest things on offense, but we believe and we set the tone early in the week. there's been times where I can use those as examples. I said, look, we played this team in 2021. They were undefeated. We were undefeated. And it was the best practice I've ever seen. Why was it the best practice? Everybody was focused. Everybody played to where we were at and knew what the expectation was. So when you can have those examples, and like you said, your whole school is filled with it. So it's just one's bouncing off the other. And it's you live it and you have to. Now I'm sure y'all have posters everywhere though, right?
No, I mean, again, it's a process. I
Mm-hmm.
can see we've done this, and by we, I say that our coaches,
Yeah.
when we designed this blueprint for success, it wasn't Kevin Guzzo saying, "Here's what we're going to do," because we both know there would be no. I don't like to say buy-in anymore. I like to say there'd be no believe-in.
Yeah.
Buy-in is sort of lip service. Believe-in is actionable.
You're in it. Yeah.
There's no believe in. So our coach, I facilitated the process, and our coaches came up with the mission, the vision, the core principles, and what those look like because they have to be involved. And then it's my job to hold everybody accountable. So how do we do that? I mean, here's an example. I wasn't planning on doing this, but here's our core value bracelets. Every
Mm-hmm.
every athlete for the last 5 years gets core value. We're the bears: belief, effort, accountability, respect, selfless. And now every kid in our school gets one. My principal loved what we were doing so much. Said, you know what? We're going to adopt this for our entire school. So you'll see these. Now we do have posters all over school, and every
Mm-hmm.
faculty member, not every faculty member, every staff member in our high school got sweatshirts with our 5 core values on them this year. Why? Because we're trying to promote the culture. Or you could talk about it all you want, but if it's not visible, if it's not actionable, if you're not rewarding behavior based on the culture, we say this all the time: rewarded or recognized behavior is repeated behavior. So for me, when I see a student athlete doing something well according to one of our core values, I'm gonna try and reward or recognize that. Why? Because hopefully it gets repeated. And if we throw somebody on social media by saying, look at this golfer respecting the game by filling divots, just an example. Boom, social media, click, put it on social media. Well, hopefully that gets other people to fire it up to do the little things right, because it's all about doing the little things right.
Yeah.
We live in a society, an environment of, hey, what's the biggest fix? What's the quick fix? What are the big ticket items? No, we got
Instant
to
gratification.
yes, we got to focus on the little things. And if we can't do the little things right, how in the world are we going to do the big things right?
Yeah.
So the expectation at my school is, if you're walking through the hallway and see a piece of garbage on the trash, pick it up. Like that's the expectation. If you see it, you own it. And if we want to have a good culture, I got to hold people accountable. First of all, I got to pick it up if I see it. And
Yeah.
number two, if somebody walks by it, I say, whoa, whoa, do you like this is a great school here. Let's pick up the trash. It's not mine. It doesn't matter whose it is. Let's pick it up anyway, because it's the right thing to do. And that to me, that's what it's all about. There's two ways to do something, the right way. And again, we got to keep telling kids that we want to act in a way that will be recognized for doing the right thing no matter what.
Yeah. And it's just it's great because like you said, your culture, it's almost like become your brand, the brand of your school. And it's not like when somebody is down in the dumps, or you lose a game, it's not like you just come up and say, oh yeah, hey Bears, remember that thing we talked about that time? It's like, no, you're living it every single day. Like this is something you have to instill. And they look down at the bracelet, they see it on a sweatshirt, and they say, you know what? I have to do this to be a part of this every day. Because let's face it, you and I both know when your culture is on a good track and it's the way it needs to be, the ones that aren't in or believe stick out like a sore thumb very quickly.
Right.
And I've seen that with our football team as of late. We've been really good the last few years. And if you don't buy in and believe, you fall out quickly. And we don't want anybody to do that. We give everybody the same opportunity, but it just becomes the norm, and it's so powerful. And I think that's why it's so powerful that you're living it and doing it, but you're also able to teach this all over the country. And I don't know if you ever had plans to go to Thibodaux, Louisiana, but you will be in Thibodaux, Louisiana at some point. Like
I'm waiting
there's
for the
no
official
doubt.
invite. You just got to tell me I'll be there. Boom.
I
Let's
just don't want it to be too hot because I don't know. You kind of adapt it, and it's like you're gonna be sweating and saying, "Oh, this is
I'm
horrible. We got
honestly,
mosquitoes everywhere."
I'm just glad to see sunshine. We haven't seen sunshine in Michigan in a long time. So see a little sunshine here in Maryland makes me really happy.
Yeah. I know you told me it snowed the other day, and I'm like coming inside, like pulling the AC on 68, trying to cool off, and you're like, "Yeah, it's snowing outside." Said, oh my gosh, if only. Very cool. So, Coach, let's talk about or get into this a little bit. So, like you said, 21 years as an athletic leader and 9 years as a coach. So, the state of mental performance from year one to now, And of course, there's so many factors and variables that got mixed into that. Social media, the comparisons, the pressure for the scholarships, the pressure because the neighbor got the scholarship. Talk about the change and the dynamics of how it's adapted and the direction that we can go as mental performance coaches, and fulfilling what needs to be done for athletes and coaches across the United States and the world essentially.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll take a two-pronged approach to that. Number one, it's not for everybody. Like at the high school level, um, let's take a track team of 50 kids. Maybe 20 of those 50 kids are really serious about being the best they can be in track. 30 kids are out for the social aspect, which is great, by the way.
Yeah.
High school sports is all about like getting
Yep.
them out, having a process, giving them something to do after school,
Yep.
being around their peers. So for those 30, mental performance might not be for them because they want to stay in shape. They want to be with their friends. But there's 20 of them that really want to be good at it, might want to set a school record, might want to be a conference champion, might want to run at the next level. Well, the thing is, if they're practicing every day, they're doing what everybody else is doing. If I look at a golfer, let's say some of the college golfers I work with, and they might work out golf related for 6 hours a day. That's a long time to practice golf.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. Every other college golfer is doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So are they gaining any traction on their opponents? Probably not. So what can they do differently? And that's where I think mental performance comes in. Right now, there's so much competition out there for the high school athlete to maybe get the college scholarship, to get some NIL deal. I mean, that's kind of the buzz right now. Even college athletes switching schools in the portal to get more NIL money, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But what's going to separate you from everybody else who's doing the same thing you are? Because I can guarantee this, that whether it's Division I, Division II, Division III, they're all working their tail off, and
Mhm.
they're all pretty darn good. But the physical part can only take you so far.
Yeah.
So where does mental performance come in for me, for you, at least in my opinion, is it gets them to a whole nother level. Why? Because they're able to control their emotions. They're able to create routines in their life that are full of discipline. So everything they do is intentional from the time they get up to the time they go to bed. Right? There's no guesswork involved. And because of that process that they've created in their life of being consistent and disciplined, they're getting better. They're getting better in all those little things. And if you take an athlete who's buying into the mental game and working on all those little things versus an athlete who's just working out for 6 hours but not investing in the mental game, this athlete over here who's investing in the mental game is going to have an advantage for sure. Because we know that a baseball player going up to bat in the bottom of the seventh inning with 2 outs and a runner on second and third, they're nervous. And it's totally fine to be nervous. It's
Yeah.
not fine to stay nervous.
Right.
And if they don't have the strategies, nor do the coaches have strategies to give them because the coaches haven't learned it, then somebody else has to. And that's to me where you and I come in and other mental performance coaches is to give them strategies. Mental performance is a trainable skill. That's what most people don't understand. Some people think it's hocus pocus. Sometimes, it's magic. There's no magic to it. And
Mhm.
the first conversation, Grant, if this was our first conversation and you were a high school or college athlete that I work with, I'd say, listen, mental performance is a trainable skill. If you want to get better at it, you have to work at it. Let's say you're a baseball player. I would say, Grant, how do you get good at bunting?
Practice bunting.
Perfect. Hey, Grant, how do you get good at infielding?
I guess I'll practice infielding.
Hey, Grant, how do you get good at base running?
Well, I guess I'll probably run.
You're playing this role really well. So that's my follow-up then. Okay, how do you think you're going to get good at mental performance?
Yep.
You got to practice it. It can't be a 30-minute call once a week with me. That's not enough. That doesn't make you a better punter if you practice once a week for 30 minutes. You practice every day, repetition, repetition, repetition. So how can I help you get better at mental performance? We're going to do repetition,
Mhm.
repetition, repetition. I'm going to give you drills. You're going to practice these drills to develop some skills so that we get a better mental performance skill set.
Yep.
But it takes work. Some athletes buy into it and they 100% every day, they're getting better. Other athletes just do it once in a while or the day before a big game. Hey, can we schedule a quick call? Big game tomorrow. What have you done since our last call? Nothing. I can't help you. I can't help you. I can't do magic. I can help you create a process because
Mhm.
process is what makes you better. But you got to be willing to do the work, just like you are with the physical part of the game. So to me, probably the biggest strategy that we can give is to get kids to believe they can get better with mental performance, but they have to work on it like anything else.
Right. One thing I saw from I think it was Ken Reviza. He said, in talking about pitchers and their process, uh, he said something. Oh, he said, let's think about a game when you're coming in from the bullpen. He said, you're jogging out to that mound from the bullpen. What's going through your head? Maybe nerves. I got to get us out of a rut. If it's a playoff game, I'm really kind of like, oh, wow, what do I do? And he said, so why aren't you practicing that jog every single day from the
Mhm.
bullpen to the mound and visualizing if it's a home game, it's a away game, and putting a scenario in your head? He said, the first thing I would do if I have a pitcher and my group of pitchers, before they even think about throwing for the day, I'm having them each individually jog from the bullpen to the mound to visualize different scenarios, different settings. And it was like, oh, who does that? Who does
Mhm.
that? I don't know anybody that does that. And it's practice, it's consistency. And like you said, the goal I think for every client is to become their own mental performance coach, their own in their head talking, to where you have the tools, you have the drills. And like you said, I coach as many as I can. I love doing it, but every couple of weeks, I'm calling Coach Kevin because I need my backup. I need my process, my plan. And it's the same thing as, as a quarterback coach, offensive coordinator. I got to teach the quarterback to be the OC on the field. Once we get out there, he's got to understand the offense. He's got to learn how to do it. And nothing changes. And I don't know. I just don't understand why this got put on the back burner for so long, and, still does by the average to slightly maybe above average, because the elite are doing it. They figured it out. I just
100%.
don't understand why it hasn't trickled down to everybody. It blows my
Well,
mind.
yeah. And here's, I think one reason why is they don't think they have time for it.
Mm,
Take the average high school coach, for instance. They say, well, I got a 2 hour practice
yep.
time. And the way I was coached, my coach practiced for 2 hours and that was that. Well, just because you were coached a certain way doesn't mean it's still good for kids.
Right.
Number one, we got to think outside the box. We got to work smarter, not harder. And number two, they look around and say, gosh, there's no other coach on the staff who's working on mental performance. Like I tell my coaches, or I teach some coaching classes for the state of Michigan, you should be meeting in a classroom once a week for 30 minutes and talking about goals and culture and mental performance. Don't do it on the playing field. When kids are on a soccer field, they want to play soccer. They don't want to listen to you talk about goals and culture. They want to play. They're kids. But when you bring them into a classroom, they're conditioned to learning in a classroom. Now all of a sudden, oh, this is important. Coach asked me to bring a notebook. We're going to go over visualization. We're going to go over breathing. We're going to go over recognizing signal lights. It must be important. The problem is, Grant, most coaches haven't taken the time to learn
Mm-hmm.
with mental performance strategies. So therefore, they don't teach them. So as an athletic leader, what do? I was just, talking to John Woods on our trip out here today. Like, we don't watch games. We watch human behaviors. Because when you watch games all the time, to be frankly honest, it gets boring. So
Right.
we watch human behaviors. How are the kids acting? How are the coaches reacting to the kids' frustration? What's the parents' body language saying right now? And then you think, is anybody helping these kids? Is anybody helping these kids? Or if they look to the bench and the coach is freaking out, but the coach is saying, hey, keep your composure out there, it
Yeah.
really makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
So therefore, like it has to start with the adults. And that's why I'll go back to saying I said earlier, if you can't lead yourself, you're not going to be able to lead others.
No.
So if you can't lead yourself to hold your composure and keep your emotions in check, how in the world are you going to ask your kids to do the same thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so powerful. And I mean, Ethan said it, a while back too. We were talking about Ethan Miller, and he said, you can't be as a kid these days. They're going
Mhm.
to sniff it out quickly. So, like you said, the second that I preach nutrition, the second that I preach waking up early, getting hydrated, and I'm drinking that Mountain Dew at practice, or, they're going to sniff it out right away. And it's just a matter of time. And, but if you're not practicing what you preach, then what's the point? And, that's what I'm saying. That's why I think it's so great when the journey starts with your own discovery and awakening and just kind of, servicing others. And, because for me, like I had to figure things out for being a dad and for my family. So I'm like, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for my wife and my kids because I don't want my wife to leave me with the kids. So I gotta get things straight. So it was like, okay, fix me. And then now it's like, okay, I have a process. I have motivation. I can teach this, and it's been working out really well since. And I'm just very thankful for it, and very thankful for you.
Well,
So,
let me
uh,
give you a compliment though, real fast, Grant. I mean, you're an educator, so you know what it is to connect with kids. And to me, so much of this is building relationships.
yes,
Build a good relationship, they have trust in you. Once they have trust in you, they're going to listen to what you have to say. Then somebody like yourself, who's so full of energy and passion that it's on display, so kids feed off of that.
yeah,
So you have the total package to impact and influence kids, no doubt about it, because you are super into and believe in, not only for yourself, but for those around you, this secret potion, if you will, to get better. And it's
Bill,
like it's it's the strategies, right? It's the process, and you can help people with that.
you're gonna love this. There was one Friday, and for my admin that's listening, sorry, but one Friday I walked in the class, and it was just one of those days where they all had three tests. They had tryouts, they had track meets, they had baseball games, and this was after lunch. And I could feel the stress from them. Usually sometimes they're upbeat, and as an educator, this is only my eighth, ninth year, 10th total, but you just know. And I said, all right, I'm gonna throw a wrench into this lesson plan. Everybody, put your head down, try to stay awake, and just listen to my voice. So you know what I put on TV? I put on our it's our oh my gosh, it's the
The Marconi one?
yes, which scientifically has been proven to be the most relaxing tune song in the world. They released it. They said this is by far instantly going to relax you. Pop it on, put your head down. I take them through the whole visualization. We start breathing. We go into confidence conditioning. I made them write down their own three statements. I'll be successful. Whatever happens, happens. I'll trust the process. This is not a football team. This is everybody from everywhere in my ACT prep class. And we went a full 18, 19 minutes. And I even put the shades down. And when it ended, some heads started popping up. And I'm just kind of standing there like, how was it? And they're like, what just happened? I was like,
Mhm.
I, I feel like way more relaxed. I said, that's the point. I said, have you ever done that before? No. Why not? I don't know. I said, well, you should do that more often. And everybody agreed, like, wow. So naturally they came in on Monday and said, can we just do that thing again? I said, oh, no, 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 no. Give them an inch, they'll take a mile, right? So I made sure to take them through it, but it was a cool experience for all the ones that, haven't been a part of it with me for sports and things like that. And just to show them that they can relax. There's a way to relax your mind, relax your body. And I'll probably be doing that tonight when my wife gets home. It's just a way that we need to just let go for a little bit. So, Coach, we're gonna wrap it up a little bit. I just want to end with this. If there is a success story that comes to mind, something that you just thinking, man, this kid was, besides me, this guy was in a slump. He was stressed out. He was freaking out,
Hey,
but
I'm sorry.
it can't be me. They went through this process, they trusted it, they worked it, and boom, they got to their ideal outcome. Does anything come to mind like that? Any type of story that you could think of?
I don't think I won't give you something specific, but I'll generalize that, if you
Okay.
will. Again, I've been really lucky to work with a lot of good college athletes and one professional golfer, not on the tour, but on the mini tours, who's working his way up. Um, and it's always fun to see how they embrace this process and embrace this change in mindset. the epiphany usually comes, we'll start for a couple months and they'll be gung-ho and they'll be all fired up. And then like just about anybody else, they have a little lull and like, oh gosh, I can't do this stuff every day. Like that's a lot. And then usually about 6 months later, they'll say, now we know. Like now we know that success is, it's not a destination, it's the journey, right?
Mhm.
Excellence is a lifestyle. And if I'm not being consistent in all these little things on a daily basis, people are passing me up. So to me, that's the success story is when they figure it out for themselves, that they have everything they know they need to do on a daily basis, right? Their success checklist. But it really takes them. I can say over and over, I can hold them accountable. I can text them. I can call them. I can remind them. But sooner or later, they go, yeah, the difference is if I'm not doing this every single day, I'm not all in. And that's what it's just, it's so competitive out there
Yeah.
at the highest level. If you're not doing the little things, you're going to get passed right up.
Yeah.
I mean, you stand a chance. And I'm not trying to, deflate anybody. That's just
No.
the reality of it because
Yeah.
people are so good now and they work so hard and there's so many resources out there. So you got to put the time and work in. It's just like anything else. So the success story for me is when clients will come back and say, you're right. Like I got to do that habit share every single day. Like I got to do it every day. And now like I'm in the best shape. I have a golfer from a Division I golfer who, like in 5 months, total body transformation. Sent me before and after pictures. His success checklist like 51 items, which is a little extreme, but none. Like he's in the best place, like almost a
Mhm.
4.0, playing good golf, feeling good about himself, completely healthy, and that's the success because before our work together, it was hoping to be the best he could be, and
Right.
now we've implemented structure into his life and
Yeah.
and that's what it takes and that's what coaching is all about. So that, I guess that's my favorite success story is seeing people get the epiphany, if you will, of
Yeah.
all right, now I know the difference. Like,
Yes.
we talked about it, I dabbled with it, I did it once in a while and I didn't see any change, but once I go all in, boom.
And everything just happens right after. It's like you think it's coincidence, but you put me on to Dr. Bob Rotella, and as soon as I read, like, watched one interview, I went by his book immediately. Golf is not a game of perfect, and it was amazing what these golfers would do. They would just go to his house, they'd go through the whole spill, and they'd be like, "That's it," and then they would use it because sometimes they were backed up against the wall where they had to make their pro card, they had to win this tournament to stay as a pro, and they'd call him and say, "I just won. Like I just relaxed. I just played. I just won. When can I come back?" And it was like, you come back this weekend if you want. Whatever. It was just kind of like that, and they would get it just one by one. They would get it, and then every time they'd show up. So this is it. This is what mental performance is. This is what sports psych is. Yeah. Oh, okay. So do it. Oh, all right, cool. And then they would, when they did it and bought in, that was it.
I mean, it's Rory McIlroy, right? Probably the best golfer in the world right now, maybe tied with Scotty.
Yep.
And here he is at top of his game, still working with Bob Rotella. He's worked with him for years. And after winning the Masters, a couple of Bob Rotella comments came out like, Bob and I talked and Bob and I met. Like we just focus on the process, stay present, one shot at a time. Don't talk to, he got criticized for not talking to Bryson in the final round. Bob said that this was part of our strategy. We're not talking to other people because then
Yep.
you're not focusing on yourself and being a one-shot warrior. So
Yep.
good enough for Rory McIlroy at the highest level of golf just to stay present, I think is good enough for any age athlete or any sport
Yep.
athlete.
Any sport, any age, any coach. Because I mean, we both saw Rory when he sunk the punt. I mean, it was the emotions just poured out of him, but all that was kept in through just that balance, that breathing, that focus, and he got it. He gets it. And this is talk about the long game. I mean, there was 11 years since his last one. So, like you said, if the best in the world is doing this, why aren't you? So,
And one more quick point on that, Grant.
so
It's not just about athletes,
oh no,
right? So there could be a CEO or a
yes,
director or a superintendent. Right? Ultimately, don't those people want to become the best versions of themselves as well? So that
hmm,
when they have that big decision to make, like a putt on sudden death overtime at the Masters, and they're feeling pressure, that they're able to stay present,
yep.
breathe, stick. to their process so they can make the right decision for their company. So
Hmm.
when you talk about mental performance, a lot of times everybody wants to talk, oh, it's just for sports. It's not. It's
Hmm.
life. It's about
No,
life.
no, I think everything that I do in terms of what we do and coach is strictly for like being a dad, just the
Mhm.
mental performance of being a dad. Like sitting in the car and, I got one screaming, I got one talking my head off, begging me to tell the Sleeping Beauty story for the millionth time. And I just start with it. I just start with it. And it just, that reframing. If I could have two things in life that I could take with me every day, it's consistency and reframing, telescope vision. And I just zoom out and say, I'm thankful my daughter can talk, and I'm thankful that she loves me enough to talk to me. And then it's like, okay, all right, I got this. I got this, And that's being a dad. I mean, this is like it's all the same biology. It's all the same reactions. It's everything. So, like you said, CEO, salesperson, big conference call, you name it, they need it. We all need it. And Coach, that was awesome. I can't thank you enough,
Oh, yeah.
man. Everything, and like I said, I can't wait to be in Michigan. If you even want me to just head up there and just click the slide next for you for the presentation, I can do that. So you don't have to worry about the clicker. I'll just click next and keep doing that. Say Grant next. And whenever you get too cold, you come down to Thibodeau and we'll get you some crawfish, some crabs or something and take care of you down here, man.
Anytime, anytime. You're doing great work, Grant. I'm just fired up to be alongside with you and keep doing you. That's the most, keep doing you. You don't need to copy anybody. You keep doing you because you have everything it takes to be an amazing mental performance coach.
I appreciate that. Couldn't do it without you, man.
All right, brother.